Syrian army units established control over several villages in al-Qalamun near the Lebanese borders, inflicting heavy losses upon terrorists. President Vladimir Putin stresses Russia's keenness to preserve each nation's sovereignty and their right to make their own choices. Syria claims about 6,000 pieces of looted antiquities trafficked by terrorist organizations. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian television in Damascus. We start in Moscow and about the President Putin speech, where in a speech he made on the anniversary of Victory Day, Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed thanks to those Russians who fought in World War II against Nazism. Hinting at the United States and NATO involvement in regime changes recently in Libya, Egypt and other states, President Vladimir Putin stressed Russia's determination to do everything possible to preserve each nation's sovereignty and their right to make their own choices and follow international regulations in order to prevent another great war. In our local news, Syrian army units, in cooperation with the Lebanese resistance, established control over several areas in al-Qalamun ranges in Damascus countryside near the Lebanese borders, inflicting heavy losses upon terrorists. A military source said that successful operations by the Syrian Arab Army and the Lebanese resistance have resulted in establishing control over the areas of Sir Az-Din, Wadi Ad-Din, Shmeis, Ain al-Walad, Qarnat Juz al-Ainab, al-Quainis border crossing in al-Qalamun ranges. The source added that the operations also resulted in eliminating large numbers of terrorists, causing the morale of terrorist groups to collapse, which resulted in infighting and quarrels among these groups and prompted a number of their members to flee to surrounding Flita town and the town of Arsal in Lebanon, while others turned themselves in several workshops used by terrorists to manufacture explosives and rig car bombs were also targeted by the Syrian army during these operations, resulting in destroying them completely and killing all terrorists inside them. More terrorists were killed and others were injured, and their weapons and ammunition were destroyed in the farms of East Nughuta. In the northern province of Idlib, units of the Syrian army and armed forces killed scores of terrorists, destroying a number of armored vehicles, some of which equipped with heavy machine guns. Army units eliminated a number of Jabhat al-Nusra terrorists and destroyed their vehicles in Abu Dhur and Kafr Nubul in Idlib countryside. In the city of Latakia, units of the Syrian army and armed forces, in cooperation with popular defense groups, established control over Az-Zaynuna Height, جورة مغريت، الرشوان، رويشة الملوحة، رويشة جورة الزعترة, and رويسة الجورة المدورة in the northern countryside of the city of Latakia after eliminating the terrorist gatherings in that area. While in Homs in central Syria, an army unit carried out special operations against dens and gatherings of the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, killing a number of terrorists, injuring others and destroying their arms and ammunition in the village of Rahum in the eastern countryside of the city of Homs. In the northwestern countryside of Hama, a number of terrorists were killed, others were injured, and their ammunition and weaponry were destroyed during army strikes against the dens of terrorist organizations in Qastun village in the countryside of Qunaitira. Units of the Syrian army targeted terrorist dens, killing and injuring terrorists from Jabhat al-Nusra and the so-called Islam Army. Secretary of the Power Association in Istanbul, Umayt Koja Sakal, called for trying Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan for his responsibility for the terrorism and bloodshed in Syria that the country has witnessed over the past 4 years. In a televised debate, Sakal said that Erdogan's regime, along with Saudi Arabia and Qatar, conspired against Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Egypt and Libya to destroy these countries. He added that the Turkish government was supporting and arming all terrorist groups operating in Syria, exploiting religious and political factors. Director of Museums in the General Directorate of Antiquities and Museums, Ahmed Deeb, asserted Thursday that competent authorities confiscated and reclaimed over 6,000 pieces of looted antiquities trafficked by the terrorist organizations during the past period, including 69 antiquities and 8 mosaic panels that were reclaimed from Lebanon. The General Directorate of Antiquities and Museums affirmed that they have taken a series of measures to preserve the museums from terrorist robberies, on top closing some museums after emptying them and moving most of antiquities from the area controlled by terrorists such as Deir ez-Zor, Daraa and Homs, and putting them in a safe place. He added that the General Directorate of Antiquities and Museums notified international organizations such as UNESCO and Interpol on the photos and documents of looted antiquities, calling on these organizations to cooperate and coordinate for reclaiming all the Syrian antiquities trafficked by the terrorists outside Syria. Syria is a cultural treasure. It includes over 6 sites on the World Heritage List compiled by the UNESCO concerning the international cooperation to fight the illegal trafficking of cultural properties. Director of Legal Affairs in the GDAM, Ayman Suleiman, pointed out that UNESCO took important role in this regard, taking a number of diplomatic and legal measures and holding training workshops for that purpose. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching and the region. And to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Now, the latest business and market news with Nariman, but after a short break.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Prime Minister affirmed the necessity of exerting joint efforts by governmental and private bodies to handle the difficulties facing pharmaceutical sector, develop it and enhance its position in international markets. During a meeting with the National Council of Pharmaceutical Industries in Syria, the Premier pointed out that protecting national industry, particularly pharmaceutical industry, is a basic and strategic goal for the government, which relies on it for providing medicine for citizens, pharmacies and hospitals. He also said that the government is encouraging medical research to produce new medicines with competitive ability on the international level, stressing the necessity of controlling prices in pharmacies. He indicated that the pharmaceutical sector is an economic and social source of power because it provides thousands of job opportunities and helps in developing national economy and achieving social stability. Official sources asserted that the concerned bodies continue pumping the foreign currency in the local market throughout the week. As they said, the amount of the currency is at 220 Syrian pounds for $1 to be sold through a number of exchange companies in all provinces. Damascus Stock Exchange Index rose in its weekly dealings to 4.62 points, while the DWX Index closed at 1,207.88 points. On the other hand, dealings reached 10 million Syrian pounds and the dealing volume reached 1,794 shares. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.